And our gospel reading today is from Matthew chapter 24, beginning with verse 36 through verses 44. No one knows about the day or hour, not even the angels in heaven, nor the Son, but only the Father. As it was in the days of Noah, so it will be at the coming of the Son of God, of Man. For in the days before the flood, people were eating and drinking, marrying and giving in marriage, up to the day Noah entered the ark. And they knew nothing about what would happen until the flood came, and took them all away. That is how it will be at the coming of the Son of Man. 2 men will be in the field. One will be taken, and the other left. 2 women will be grinding with a handmill. One will be taken, and the other left. Therefore keep watch, because you do not know on what day your Lord will come. But understand this, if the owner of the house had known at what time of night the thief was coming, he would have kept watch and would not have let his house be broken into. So you also must be ready at an hour when you do not expect him. This is the gospel of our Lord. Are you ready? What? Well, that can apply to all kinds of possibilities, can't it? Are you ready for the quiz? Oh, a quiz? Yes. What is? Okay, Lord's ready. How about, are you ready for that move? Are you ready to party? Does that one sound better? Yeah. We'll take that one, right? But for most people at this time of year, the question tends to be, are you ready for Christmas? Meaning, are your decorations all on display yet? Have you cleaned for the arrival of guests? Have you bought the groceries in order to prepare a big feast? Have you finished your Christmas shopping yet? Are the gifts all wrapped and the cards all sent? We know the intent behind the question. If that hasn't produced enough anxiety to hear those questions, then you have our scripture readings today, which are asking us this first week of Advent. Are you ready to think about eschatology and the parousia of Christ? Do we even understand the intent of that question? On the first Sunday of Advent, we are being asked if we are ready for the end times, for the birth of a new age, for the coming of Christ. That implies change. Now, I don't know about you, but most people don't like change very much. It makes them uncomfortable. While many try to predict when the second coming will happen, our gospel tells us that no one knows when that will be. Not even the angels, not even Christ himself. That goes contrary to what many writers and lecturers try to tell us. They like to offer us signs and timelines, and some of those timelines have come and gone. I don't know if you noticed that, but I remember as a child hearing that this was going to be the last day of the earth. And I remember when 2001 came, it was going to be the end. We heard it all. Jesus doesn't predict. Instead, we hear him looking at those in history and those currently who weren't prepared. The community around Noah who were swept away in a flood. 2 men working in the field, one taken, one left behind. And the scholars aren't sure which is which, even though the left behind means, is that a good thing or is it a bad thing? So we don't know. And the same with 2 women then, because they don't want to be sexist in this. 2 women were grinding meal and one was taken and one was left behind. And then there's the homeowner who wouldn't have fallen asleep if he had known what time the thief might arrive. While most of us try to schedule our lives and may find the clock dictating to us. Jesus warns us that much of life happens at the unexpected times, when we least expect it. God has little use for our clocks. Wildfires, earthquakes, tornadoes, hurricanes, and other natural disasters aren't determined by a clock. The birth of a child, well, it's a little bit better that you can schedule, but it's seldom is according to schedule exactly. It's usually rather vague when we do think no. And once that child is born, their sleep schedule isn't according to our schedule. So did you hear about the parents who called their baby Kathryn? It kept them awake all night. Do we have the video? Okay, we're going to try a video too. Let's see if this is you in church. Is that some of our members during church? When I did my internship down in Gonzales, Texas, the senior pastor warned me that Sam always sits on the back row, and he always sleeps, and he always snores. And so I needed to just be aware and not panic when I started to hear Sam snore. The senior pastor was not happy because I always kept my sermons short, and Sam never fell asleep. And that really irritated me. But I was told that maybe there are some suggestions of how to keep our people awake during church. One, so that your pastor doesn't notice when you fall asleep. You should be sitting on the front pews, not the back pew, because the pastor always looks at back pews. is, if you preach, you don't fall asleep. So you could volunteer to preach instead, and you learn a lot more that way too. So that's another option. So there's other possibilities you may think of, but our epistle reading joins Matthew in telling us we need to wake up, to be alert, and even tells us to get dressed, putting on the armor of light. Isaiah gives us a vision and hope of what this future in God's hands might look like. All nations coming together, walking in God's way, understanding that God is the judge, not us. A time when weapons are repurposed with swords becoming like combines or farm equipment, and spears becoming pruning hooks. Instruments of death being turned into tools to produce or to harvest food that delivers life to all. And where no one needs to learn about war or violence in the war. Isaiah takes us to the mountain where we can feel God's presence to reveal this vision that many consider impossible. As children, we believed in things that to us today seem to be impossible. But as we grow older, we have become disillusioned and thereby complicit with the stark realities that we often see around us. But our scripture readings invite us to wake up. Every moment of every day has divine possibilities in it. What if we do as Isaiah suggested? Say, when he said, "Come, let us walk in the light of the Lord." Or as Paul in Romans says, "Let us then lay aside the works of darkness and put on the armor of light." What if we put aside quarreling, jealousy, and the things that destroy community or damages relationships? What if we start living now as though this is a new day and it's already begun? This is a new month and a new opportunity. Advent is a time to prepare for the coming of our Lord, a time to let the old order die and usher in the new and better order that God calls for through each and every one of us. Advent calls us away from apathy and complacency to be transformed, a global transformation, to be created new in God's own image. Paul Simpson Duke speaks of the invitation to walk in the light of the Lord, saying, God's future casts its gleam into the present. We move towards God's future by making choices, personal, relational, political, communal, in its light. At St. Louis University is a small Jesuit chapel that is creatively lit. The light fixtures are made of 20th century cannon shells, converted. Emptied of their lethal content, they now hold light for people to pray by. In such light we pray and live, and have laid our own weapons down. We bear witness to the promise of greater transformations in days to come. Friends, there is power in walking in God's light, one foot in front of the others, not knowing what the future may hold. The future belongs to God, but first we must trust enough that we begin to walk in God's light, reflecting to others the possibilities that God has in store for all of us. Let us start living as people who believe and want to open the doors for God's future in the here and now. Are you ready to walk in the light of God today and every day forward? May we be ready. In Jesus' name.